So let's start chapter 8, which is going over unemployment. So when we're talking about unemployment, what we're really talking about is there's going to be three types of people in our economy, right? So there's going to be people that are out of the labor force, meaning they just straight up don't want to work. Okay, they don't need a job, they don't want a job, they are not in the labor force. So what is in the labor force are the people that actually do want a job. And those are two types of people: the people that actually have a job and the people that don't have a job, but they do want one. So the adult population consists of these three people: employed, the people that are currently working for pay; the unemployed, which are the people that are out of work but actively looking for a job. And when we say actively looking for a job, we're talking about people that are applying for a job. Basically, if you came up to somebody that was unemployed and said, "Hey, when's the last time that you applied for a job?" They say, "I applied last week. I applied today." Something like that. That shows you that they are actively looking and that they don't have a job right now. So they are unemployed. And then there's the people that are out of the labor force. Those are the ones that are not working and not looking for a job, whether they want employment or not. Okay, they are just not looking. Okay, so out of the labor force, right here, these people are in the labor force, employed plus you're unemployed. So anytime we're looking for what is the labor force, those are the people that are actually looking for a job. Either they have one or they are looking for one. Employed plus unemployed. So if we have a population of 2,000 people, like our adult population is 2,000 people, and we have 1,000 that are employed, and we have 900 unemployed. Okay, and how many are out of the labor force? Okay, so what we're going to do here is in our adult population, our labor force, which is the unemployed plus the employed, is going to be 1,000 plus 900. So that would be 1,900. So we have 1,900 that are in the labor force. So how many are out of the labor force? We have 2,000 in the entire population. 1,900 are in the labor force, so that means 100 is out of the labor force. Okay, it's just simple math. We have a population of 2,000 people. We have the employed, unemployed, out of the labor force. Okay, so that is the three types of people that we have. Now, the unemployment rate. So this is really what we're looking for. If you turn on the news and they say, "Hey, the unemployment is 5%." Well, how do we calculate that? Well, that is the percentage of adults who are in the labor force and seeking jobs but do not have one. So out of the labor force, like the people that are employed plus unemployed, that population there, how many are unemployed? Notice that this is not population. It's not population. It is total labor force. So the other way to look at this formula is the unemployed divided by the labor force. And the reason we multiply by 100 is to make it a percent. So basically, if we had, like this example here, this would be 900 divided by 1,900, because it's our unemployed divided by our labor force. And if you were to do this calculation here, you should get 0.4736, and then if you multiply it by 100, you should get 47.36%. Okay, so that's what that times 100 is. and just so you know. So here's the formula. Unemployed divided by the labor force. The other way to look at this is unemployed divided by employed plus the unemployed. Again, not population, labor force. Unemployed divided by the labor force. Okay. So that is the unemployment rate. Anytime you hear about the unemployment rate is 4%, what that's telling you is that you have this many people unemployed divided by this many people in the labor force, and that is 4%. Okay. So that 4% would be telling you, or let's take this example here, this 47.36%. This is saying out of the labor force, 47.36% are unemployed. Okay. So this gives you some useful information. Another piece of useful information would be the labor force participation rate. Now, this formula here is very important because what we're going to be looking at here is out of your entire population, how many people are in the labor force? And that's pretty important because it's like if we have a population and only 10% are wanting to work, then that would have a very low labor force participation rate. And so that would tell us like, hey, where for some reason people don't want to have a job. We could have a very low unemployment rate, like maybe 10% of the labor force are participating, and all of those people have a job, which is great. So you would have unemployment of 0%, but we only have 10% in the entire population that are working, and that's an issue. So unemployment rate is a good thing to measure, and the labor force participation rate is another great measure because it's looking at out of the entire population how many people are actually wanting a job. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to take the total labor force divided by the population times 100, and this will be your labor force participation rate. So back to our example here, okay, where we have 1,900 in the labor force. Remember, employed plus unemployed, and then we're going to divide this by the population. So therefore, it would be the LFPR would be 1,900 divided by the population. So this should equal 95. So this would be 95%. So 95% of the population is participating in the labor force. And that's a really, really good number. Okay. So again, labor force participation rate, labor force divided by the population. The unemployment rate is labor force divided by the unemployed divided by the labor force. Okay, so look at those two formulas. They are very, very important to know. Now, there are some issues with the unemployment rate. Okay, sometimes we're going to be miscalculating it. One way we're going to be miscalculating it is with a thing called hidden unemployment. Basically, people who are mislabeled in the categorization of employed, unemployed, or out of the labor force. So technically, someone could be considered unemployed, employed, or out of the labor force, but really they should be considered something else, or they should be somewhere else in the population. So, for example, part-time or temporary workers looking for full-time or permanent work. So basically, they do have a job right now, and they are also seeking another job. So there's no way we can calculate that in the sense of like unemployment, because are they looking for another job? Yes. Do they have a job? Yes. So there's no really way to measure that kind of rate. Another one would be underemployed. This one's really important here because as underemployed goes is that individuals who are employed in a job that is below their skills. Basically, this is like a doctor working at McDonald's. So he should be at a hospital using his skills as a doctor and getting paid as a doctor, but he's working as a lower level skill kind of job at McDonald's. Maybe he's only working as a cashier at McDonald's. Okay, so different skill levels, but he does have a job. Different skill levels though. So he should be as a doctor, but he is underemploying his skills by being at McDonald's as a cashier. So what should happen here is he should quit his job at McDonald's and work as a doctor. Okay, so he should quit to be unemployed to be employed. So that's why it's kind of like a hidden unemployment, is that he should be somewhere else, but he's not. Another one is called discouraged workers, those who stop looking for a job due to the lack of suitable positions available. So basically what's happening here is that these people do want a job, but right now, considering what's available, there's nothing available for them. And so they become discouraged and they stop looking. So when they stop looking, they're out of the labor force, but they still are unemployed because they still want a job. But because there's nothing available, they're out of the labor force. So that's the thing, is just like they are unemployed, but because they stop looking, they're out of the labor force. And that's an issue. That's a hidden unemployment, is that they should be considered in the unemployment rate, but because they stop looking, because there's nothing available, they are considered out of the labor force and not calculated in the unemployment rate. Okay? So those are the three types of hidden unemployment. And then unemployment over time. So as you can see here, unemployment generally is around 4 to 6%. Generally. Okay, it's hanging out kind of in between there. There are times where it is higher. During these times, these would be recession times, where you have really high unemployment, such as back here with the Great Recession. A lot of people stopped working, so really high unemployment there. And then unemployment is going to be higher for younger people. So basically, we have a lot of people, like if they graduate high school, they might not have a job right now out of high school. So they do want a job, and we have a lot of people that are, as soon as they graduate, they want a job, but they haven't had one yet. So they are going to be unemployed for a while. But as you get older, when you get more experience and more value added to your resume, you're more likely to be hired. So that's why we have a lower unemployment rate as you get older, is because you have a little bit more value to you. You're more likely to be hired. So in terms of age, the younger you are, the more likely you're going to be unemployed. The same thing goes for education. The lower education you have, on average, the higher unemployment. That's just the way it goes, if we were to look at the data. Okay? In the next video, we'll talk more about unemployment across other countries and other things you should know. I'll see you there.